Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse. We are squatted up tonight, ready to get down on some combine talk. We are coming at you with exclusive premiere on Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We've got simulcast releases on the Undroppables and Fantasy Football Plus. I am Biggs. We got Coach down there, Chev next to him, Schultze up here, not messing around in drawers in the back.
Not this time.
And Greinberg in the corner, sporting his Canadian flag colors. And combines next week. It's draft season, you guys. So watch this. We're going to talk about combine players, and then we're going to switch out, and we're going to go to Dynasty Pulse after dark and do a mock draft for y'all. So hang with us. We got a good show coming up tonight. I'm excited.
Yeah, we all are excited for this. We've been waiting a whole week since the last show. We had a good show last week, talked a couple of face-offs, and we're going to get into a couple more this week. But really, we got the Combine Primer show. We're probably getting a little bit more into it next week, deep dive a little more into it, potentially having maybe a special guest on. We'll have to see. But let's talk about the Primer this week. We each going to talk about one player in specific that we're got our eye on headed into the combine. Who's going to start us off? Who wants this?
Well, I'm going to translate that for the Americans out there. We're each going to talk about one player that gets you bricked up in the Home Depot.
Boom.
Goodness. Well, I don't think Chev could have said it better himself.
Well, with that intro, I would just like to allow myself to introduce my favorite player. Would that be for the combine? Is that what I should do?
Sure. Go ahead, Brickhouse.
Brick us up.
Yes. The guy that I'm most excited for, the guy that I'm most excited to see at the combine is Kaleb Johnson. Now, I personally was a Kaleb Johnson denier, much like I am a Jalen Waddle denier and a former reformed Drake London denier. However, Greinberg was so gracious as to assign him to the great legendary ball knower to examine his film from the 2024 season. And I am now a Kaleb Johnson believer, full belief. Okay. We're talking about a guy 6 foot, 225 pounds. His top speeds in 2022, 2023, and 2024 all topped over 21.5 miles an hour. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this guy runs. And I mean, I've moved him up from just a disrespectful ranking, and I apologize to the whole Kaleb Johnson lineage for where I had him ranked at first. And now I'm close to putting him in my top 3 of the class. So I'm really excited to see how he runs. I think he's really going to surprise some people, and he might be challenging Amarion Hampton for the second running back selected in the draft this year.
I love that. Last week we talked about Hampton versus Johnson. I split it in a portfolio 6'4", it's razor thin. And it's funny enough, I got blessed with being able to do Amarion Hampton's rookie scouting report. And as I've gone through his report, it actually led me over to Kaleb Johnson. So I really like that. The long speed opportunity is there for Kaleb Johnson. Daniel Jeremiah had a mock where he had all these running backs go. It was Janty, it was Hampton. Hampton went to the Chargers. Janty went to the Steelers. And then Kaleb Johnson not there, notably not there in the first round. I think that could shift around the order of the draft between Hampton and Kaleb Johnson. So to your point, I'm very excited, Chev. Many people are kind of catching on to the fact that Amarion Hampton doesn't have that long speed and he can get tracked down. And I think people are starting to see that there could be a shift there in Kaleb Johnson's favor. What they're hoping for on Hampton's end is that he'll have a 4.4 40 somewhere in the 4.4s. Not so sure that's even going to matter per se, because again, the long speed, open field, it's not Jahmyr Gibbs every single time. He's going to get got. Kaleb Johnson has more of that opportunity. So I like what you got to say there.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I've had Kaleb Johnson in my top 5 this whole draft season. I've had him right at number 4. Like he's going to be good. We have to see these combine metrics, but yeah, let's go Hawkeyes. Yeah. I think somebody made the point that he actually made Iowa a productive offense.
Yeah, 23 of 40 offensive touchdowns scored
By him.
and his name is Kaleb Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now, Schulte, it's a little bit past Christmas, but you have, something to report?
They don't get that reference.
Ooh.
I do.
Okay, for the Americans,
I caught it. I caught it.
Noel is translated from the French and Canada for Christmas.
Come on, dude. I feel like everybody knows about Noel Christmas connection here. I don't think it's that far out there, Biggs. But hey, for me, Jaylin Noel's the guy. Now, small slot guy, super shifty, quick, agile. Combine's going to be pretty important as far as how far he can shoot up some teams' boards. And the things I look for from him, I'm intrigued by the 40. I've seen some people knock his deep speed. I'm not super concerned by it. When I watched him on film, maybe they just did a great job of getting him matched up, and it was always in the slot and just get him running right by people. And if it takes a little bit of scheming up for him, like that's fine. Like he's not, that's not his game to be like a deep threat, right? So I do want to see the 40 number to see where that's at. But I think more importantly, we're going to see the 10-yard split, 20-yard split, 3-cone shuttle, the tests that show us what this dude, where his juice is really at, right? And then from that, we're going to build on to an RAS score, and that's going to be very important for Jaylin Noel. So those are the numbers I'm looking for. Like I'm already sold on the guy. I think he's going to be a good receiver. But if we see some explosive like shuttle time, some 3-cone stuff, and then like his RAS score starts popping, he's going to be climbing even more.
Yeah, I had a chance to not only watch him during the practice sessions at the Senior Bowl and in the Senior Bowl, but also interview him. And he was a super, super cool kid. He and Jaden Higgins, both the Cyclone brothers coming out. One of the things that just really popped off during the Senior Bowl practices was his route running ability. The dude has footwork for days. I have comped him to like peak Hunter Renfrow as far as his like ability to create separation with his route running ability. And don't worry about his long speed, because on day 3 of the Senior Bowl practices, he was the highest clocked wide receiver. So the guy is fast enough. Whether or not he's going to go out and run a sub 4.3 40, that's not even an issue. We know from Sumer Sports what metrics we should be looking at that correlate to production in the NFL. And for wide receivers, 40 time is not one of the top 5. So do not worry your little head about Jaylin Noel. He's going to be really, really good, very productive in the NFL. Get him into the right fit that is going to keep him in the slot and utilize his slot ability. And we're talking a guy that could get into the 100+ target range very, very early in his career.
Hey, this guy could be what everyone wanted Jaden Reed to be, right?
Or what Deontay Johnson used to be.
That's fair. Absolutely.
Deontay Johnson thinks he still is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Boom.
Future Chief Deontay Johnson. That's where
Hey, we got to clip that. Mike's face. Mike's face when you said that.
Oh, well.
That was great. That was
Greinberg, who are you watching?
Okay, well, I'm still stinging from the last couple of weeks of the Chiefs Kingdom, and now that kind of bullshit. I'm just joking. No, you guys are good. You guys are all good. I love it. I'm going to be watching Tre Harris, and there's a couple reasons. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. He's got the physical attributes that makes him an opposing presence on the field. Good catch radius, excellent body control. He's a very good contested catch situation guy. And he's got an elite production, impressive 5.12 yards per route run. That stat indicates his ability to generate significant yardage every time he's targeted. So there's some weird situation around him, like why, he's popped off so much. So I'm going to be watching. He's popped off so much. in the brick aisle. And we're going to have to see if he can sustain that in the combine because, I'm looking for him to stand out. And his PFF grade 95 against man coverage. It highlights his ability to beat tight coverage. His size is everything that I'm looking for. And
Good size. We love good size. Keep going.
16.1 yards per reception in 2024. He's got the ability to stretch the field and his physicality and control. It's going to be there. He's got a limited route tree though, and he only caught 70% of his targets last year. So I'm looking for him to have a good performance. He's going to have a defining moment because his size and skill and production, if he tests well, it might address some of his mechanical flaws. So I'm looking for him to test well this week. So amongst his size and everything else.
Hey, so I mean, he's getting some wide receiver two push for some people here, and he pushed himself into the first round, and he goes and tests like it. Yeah, he's going to push himself right up into that conversation. And I think for me, I want to see him on the running routes and see how smooth he looks doing it. I think when you get a guy his size, if he can go out there and look really smooth and comfortable, I think that's kind of a big deal too. And a lot of scouts get to see him up close and personal in that aspect now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just intrigued about, his profile and where he's going to land and, where he's going to test there. Big Z, we're going to pipe in there.
Well, I have personal hopes, and my personal hope is that he falls flat on his face at the combine because I know what the kid can do. I've seen his college production. You look at his metrics, and they are off the charts, right? And he's got a great relationship with Jackson Dart, who I'm planting my flag that the Raiders are taking at the 6th spot. Jackson Dart played high school ball with Jackson Powers Johnson in high school in Utah, and he and Tre Harris are best friends, and they're doing their pre-combine preparation together in Southern California. I would love to see that trio on the field in the silver and black. For that to happen, Tre Harris needs to fall into the 2nd round, and I just don't see that happening. So that's my personal hope is it does. But love him. Yards per route run, absolutely. We're looking at unprecedented numbers, and there was one guy that helped him do that, and that was Jackson Dart. So the two of them on the same field in the NFL, I'd be pretty bricked up about that.
Huge fantasy discount if he falls too at the combine, right?
That too.
Yeah.
Well, it's just he's a prospect that there's so much up in the air about. There's so many variables that are just people are scratching their head about. So that's why I'm really intrigued to see how he measures and how he performs.
Great numbers versus man, 3 years of 900 receiving yards or more, just a huge target and just long length when he goes to just get up and get the ball. It's just so funny because between Dart, it's kind of like chicken or the egg. Is it the offense that supplied it? Is it the first read? All those debates. I think it's just going to be Jackson Dart is going to end up all right and good in the NFL, and Tre Harris is just an absolute baller. And it's just funny. I love, for some reason, seeing that powder blue from Ole Miss and players just do well in college. Maybe it's because I fell in love with A.J. Brown, but I really love Tre Harris. And that's a good one to watch. And to the entry point as far as Dynasty rookie mocks, which we'll do on the back half of the show here, we want entry point opportunities. So in the event that Tre Harris did do poorly at the combine, to Big's point, we want to stick to our priors in some of these situations. And in this instance, I think it's a clean sweep in agreement that we will stick to our priors on Tre Harris. But good pointing out, Mike, how he's going to do, because everyone, not just us, is going to be bricked up in the cement aisle should Tre Harris go off at the combine.
So Biggs, you got a wide receiver that you got your eye on, probably for a number of different reasons. He's probably going to be looking to keep up with, other, Texas wide receiver from last year, Xavier Worthy, and we'll see how he measures in the 40 dash. But who you can talk about here?
I'm going to talk about Isaiah Bond from Texas. Now, I try my best not to be a helmet scout, but there are certain programs that have certain profiles. You look at Ohio State, and you're going to want wide receivers who were recruited or coming out of Ohio State. for a while, it was you wanted wide receivers coming out of Alabama. We're looking at Oregon having, kind of a year over year wide receiver, running back, quarterback that are rated pretty highly. And Texas is right up there. And we have the instance of Xavier Worthy running the fastest 40 time. Now, we know that 40 time doesn't correlate, 40 time at the combine doesn't correlate to NFL production. But by the time of the Super Bowl, Xavier Worthy is probably, because of Rashee Rice's injury, the most hyped wide receiver in that Kansas City wide receiver room. Well, he's got an underclassman who's coming right on his heels at Texas, who has been clocked at a 4.28 40 that could improve on that at the combine. Again, that's not corollary, so that's not what I'm going to be looking for. But if we want a smaller guy, Isaiah Bond is 5'11", 180. If we want a smaller guy who's going to be a slot and deep threat, kind of in that mold of Xavier Worthy, I'm going to be focused on the fact that, number one, Isaiah Bond is the youngest wide receiver in this class. That age correlation is absolutely critical. Number two, I'm going to be watching his vertical jump. Vertical jump is the second most corollary statistic for combine metrics. Bench press, because he's a little guy, but he's going to need to not get knocked over like Xavier Worthy. And if he can show that he has some strength in that little body of his, he's going to be able to beat some press man coverage with upper body strength. And then finally, the shuttle, because we need to know that he's going to be able to use footwork right off the line to break that press man coverage and create separation and get open. If he can put all those things together with the top line speed that we know that he has, Isaiah Bond could be a super good value in the second round of your rookie drafts.
Love it. And I have it speaking to, does anybody have anything they want to add to that?
Chev?
Schulte's been. Sorry.
I like the guy.
Schulte's been the Bond guy, so I expected him to just drop off, some serious ball knowledge here. However, I'll say this. I've been a Matthew Golden guy. However, going into this combine, this is the type of thing that absolutely boosts a wide receiver like Isaiah Bond's profile. Like, I had designs on getting Xavier Worthy last year at pick 38, where we took T'Vondre Sweat, Tennessee Titans. But he runs the record. I mean, he runs a record 40 time and creeps into the first round. The Chiefs trade up. Infamously, we know how that worked out for the Chiefs and the Bills. So I think Isaiah Bond is going to help his stock. Obviously, what he put on film this year at the University of Texas was not the best. He did not have the most stable quarterback play. We'll just say that to not poo-poo on another 2025 NFL prospect. However, he at Alabama, you saw the long speed, you saw the deep speed. I mean, he was the recipient of the Gravedigger pass against Auburn in the Iron Bowl 2 years ago, and now he transfers to Texas, and it doesn't quite work out. But this is one of those ones where we could be looking back at this. We could be looking back at what happened at Texas once football starts happening and be like, what were they doing? Like, how come they couldn't figure out a way to get this guy the ball? And then we could be looking at his value in rookie drafts. Hold on. I ran some ADP, some pre-Senior Bowl ADP. I'm going to pull that up real quick. But looking at where he's going right now in rookie drafts, I think that, he's going at the 206. Like, if he runs a 4.2 and then we get him on an NFL field, there's no way that he's not going to outperform that 206 ADP. I mean, Xavier Worthy, his teammate, the other super duper fast guy from Texas, his predecessor was going around like the 1.7, 108, and we were like, I don't know. So I think the fact that Xavier Worthy paid off in such a manner in the back half of the season, and the fact that he's going, if he runs a great 40 and tests really well, this is going to be somebody who's going to smash at ADP.
I do have a theory about Texas. I cannot contain my hate for Steve Sarkisian. And over on Player Profiler, I'm working on part of the rookie guide over there and had a chance today to write up Quinn Ewers, who pre-2024 season, I was looking at going, this is a 5-star recruit, and 5-star recruits hit at a 25% rate in the NFL. He had 3,500 yards passing as a sophomore. That's a semi breakout level performance. Let's see what he can do in 2024. Well, he didn't progress at all. He didn't improve at anything. He regressed in terms of his interception rate. He did not have a good year. And when you have a kid who's a junior, Declare, who gets benched at like mid-game during the season, that is supposed to be the starting guy of a top-tier SEC playoff-ready team, there's something there. Now, we are going to see over the next few years, Quinn Ewers is going to be a developmental prospect because of his performance in 2024. If he had gone out and thrown 4,200, 4,500 yards, 30-plus touchdowns this season, he definitely would have been in the conversation for top 4 or top 5 quarterbacks. He didn't do that. He played terribly. He's not mobile. Yeah. And we're going to see over the next few years, if he can get into a situation where he gets drafted by, say, the San Francisco 49ers, and Kyle Shanahan sits on him for 3 or 4 years, and he comes in to take over for Brock Purdy or whatever, that's the perfect style offense that Quinn Ewers' skill profile clocks to. We could be looking at a post-hype sleeper candidate in a couple years along the lines of Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, the story that we've seen recently quite a few times. So we're going to see if he really is a bad processor with a terrible arm that has no mobility and is not creative whatsoever, or if Steve Sarkisian has a terrible program at Texas, completely torpedoes Arch Manning next year, and Steve Sarkisian and Texas were the problem at quarterback, not necessarily Quinn Ewers. That's going to play out over the next few years. And I think that's one thing that we can look at with Isaiah Bond and Xavier Worthy to a certain extent too. It may not necessarily be their intrinsic talent. It may have been either Quinn Ewers or Steve Sarkisian or some combination of both of them. So I was not a huge Xavier Worthy guy last year. I'm trying not to repeat that mistake with Isaiah Bond, and the more I dig in, the more I like.
Excellent. Well, for me, the guy that I'm looking at is Matthew Golden, his teammate at Texas. On NFL.com, Golden has a wide receiver next-gen stat score of 6.4, tied with Teteroa McMillan. The only receiver ahead of them is Luther Burden. Golden, a 4-star prospect from 247 Sports. He started his college career at Houston, ended up in Texas his junior year. Not necessarily a linear path for Gordon, but things are looking pretty linear right now. Daniel Jeremiah has talked up Golden being the best wideout in the class and just mocked him to Buffalo at pick 30. That would be funny how we just talked about Worthy and what happened with the Chiefs and the Bills. And then, of course, we have the Bills just having the humility. I kind of think about what the Eagles did after missing out on Justin Jefferson and the Jalen Reagor mishap. They went out and just admitted with humility, let's go get our guy. They got A.J. Brown. Matthew Golden here, if he were to be a Bill, this would be phenomenal. On Underdog, has risen 4.2 spots in the last week and up 10 spots since late January. People are getting wise to him. In 2024, people tuned in to see Isaiah Bond on Saturdays just to have Matthew Golden impress them. And to your point, Biggs, what we were saying about an opportunity to buy low on Bond, an opportunity to have Bond showcase based on what happened with Ewers, I think there was part of that mixed in there as well. Golden in the SEC championship lost to Georgia, 8 for 162, a long reception of 50 yards. Recall college football playoff semifinal versus ASU. Golden hung 7 catches, 149 yards and a touchdown with a long catch of 54 yards. Golden to me looks like a fluid route runner. He has bounce in his step. He can break his route and turn on the ball, cut on a dime while bouncing off the turn and cut. I see it as Golden, he has springs under his feet, which help him change direction and increase his maneuverability. Add to that, Golden can catch the ball over the top with ease, which is impressive considering he's 6 feet and 195 pounds. Golden plays bigger than his frame. from PFF, Golden in 2024 was tied for 15th in deep catches and was 30th in deep yards. So for a guy who can blow up into top tier status, I will be closely watching Texas receiver Matthew Golden.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some interesting metrics to him. Like you said, all those things are good for him. But, some of the things that I look for is like his yards per route run isn't off the charts whatsoever. He's got some of the things like his frame isn't that big either. So I think he's going to be tough against the press coverage. And he's got some, they said it on the Underground, the Dynasty show on the Undroppables Network. They have like Adonai
right
Mitchell
here on the Undroppables Network.
Yeah, exactly. There's some real Adonai Mitchell vibes about him. Very similar to like Keon Mitchell, that kind of demographic. So like, yeah, you say the Bills, they'll do well with them, but they're going to be very specific in how they use this kind of wide receiver, in my opinion. And unless he can separate and, do well against, press coverage, he's going to have a hard time. And he fits in the kind of like that mid range where he's not that great there. So I'm going to be very skeptical of his profile, and people are going to overdraft him, like I mentioned on that show. And I'm right in with that take. The people are going to overdraft Matthew Golden because of all these things that you see. He's coming from that pedigree in Texas. So, I mean, I just see it that way. And I'm going to have very little shares of him moving forward because of that.
That's why we are here. Because this is what we're doing. We're doing the work. We're doing the analysis. Let's talk real quick. And I've been like plugging this on every show that I've been doing pre-combine. Sumer Sports correlation at wide receiver to production in terms of their combine stats. Age is the number 1, vertical jump is number 2, bench is number 3, shuttle's number 4, broad jump is number 5, 3-cone is number 6. Those are the things that you, the viewer, should be focused on if you've got a guy that you're interested in, you want to see how he shakes out at the combine. Vert, bench, shuttle, broad jump. Those are the metrics that you want to be seeing your guy be in the top 3, top 4 of the wide receiver class. We drop down then to 3-cone drill, 40, height, and weight. Those things are not important as far as NFL production. You can be a smaller guy and still put up numbers. You can have a slower 40 time in the 4.5s, 4.6s as a wide receiver. As long as you're getting separation, you can still be productive as an NFL wide receiver. So it's those small space, the twitchy muscles, the agility, those kinds of things are the things that we're going to be looking at. And then the explosiveness to get away from people. And remember, these are kids. They are slight of build. They don't have man muscle yet, and they're going up against grown-ass men at the NFL at the NFL level at cornerback, guys that are 6 foot, 6'1". They have 20, 30 pounds on them. They still have the speed, but they've been in the weight room in NFL weight rooms for the last 3, 4, 5 years. Plus, they have the knowledge of the defense, all this stuff. It's a hard road to hoe for rookie wide receivers. These are kids going up against grown men. And when you're on the smaller side, it does take a little bit of extra athleticism to win. We'll see if Matthew Golden can do that. I like what you said about the Adonai Mitchell vibes. I missed that on the program. But I got the same vibes from Xavier Worthy last year. And that's kind of what I was saying before. I'm trying not to make that mistake again. I'm trying to figure out where I missed on Brian Thomas Jr. These are all the things that we're going in. And so we want the viewers to be paying attention to these things too, because after the combine, when you watch our shows and we're starting to tell you who popped off at the combine, and these are the metrics that did it, you're going to be in lockstep with us on who the values are, who's going to be overdrafted, all that stuff. Draft season is the best, baby.
Hey, and you talked about Texas has a type. And then to Mike's and my points, you need 2 sides in a market. So the beauty is we can have that side now. And post-combine, we may be in alignment or still in disagreements. And then, of course, that can lay out in your rookie mocks and, of course, in the Dynasty leagues, which you play with. So it's very fun. This establishes 2 sides, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got to unmute myself.
Phantasmal.
It's phantasmal. I got to unmute myself before we get into the next segment here, where we're back into our face-offs. Now, last week we had 3 awesome face-offs, and now this week we're going to get into a couple more, and that is our Dynasty Rankings face-off, where we have a couple players that we're going to peg up against each other in a debate here, and I got a couple good probing ones here, and the probe is out, and I'm going to hit you up.
Probe
Okay?
me.
We're going to get probed. Okay, so our first one here is Bucky Irving against James Cook, and these are 2 stars at the running back position who are closely ranked in Dynasty. They offer impressive upside, but different styles of play. Irving, the second year back from Tampa, the first onto the scene his rookie year, RB16, even cracking the top 10 in fantasy points after the Bucks 12 bye. He's been elusive. He's been great. And then you talk about the other side of the ball, and that is James Cook. His third year, he had career high 19 touchdowns, which a lot of people didn't think he could even come to because of how much Josh Allen rushes in the red zone. He had a RB8 finish. After struggling with the low touchdown numbers in 2023, he had a massive leap in 2024. Now, Schultze, you've been high on Bucky Irving, even after the combine last year. We talked about it in the offseason. Do you think, his elite tackle breaking ability, his potential to be a true lead back in Tampa, do you see him as having a higher ceiling in 2025 than James Cook, or does James Cook touchdown production and stability in that high-powered offense make him a safer bet in dynasty leagues?
So I think it's the perfect way to frame this. Like, you got James Cook, who's in this high-powered offense, and look, some of the concern going in for me personally was, well, Josh Allen's going to run in for a bazillion touchdowns, and like, is this sustainable for James Cook? And he blew that right out of the water, right? But the touchdown mark, probably not sustainable. I'm sure that's going to regress some, right? He's still going to put up some numbers. He was 8th in PPR leagues this year, 16.7 points per game. And Bucky was 13th in full PPR, 14.4 points per game. So we're giving the edge to Cook on this season, scoring a little bit. When you look at targets, 52 targets for Bucky, 47 catches, 38 targets for Cook, 32 catches. And this is with Bucky getting a little bit of a ramp-up period, right? So expect the targets to be favoring Bucky. Touchdowns, we still had 8 for Bucky. I mean, this guy is a big play waiting to happen. And here's where I'm going to give the edge to Bucky. Yards created. That dude is 4th in the league with 1,255 yards created. And on a per-touch basis, that was 6 yards per touch created. And that was 5th in the league. And you go over to James Cook at 3.38, and that's 33rd in the league. He created 808 yards total for 25th in the league. So that's your big discrepancy, right? I know Liam Cohen's run scheme was a huge boost for both guys in Tampa, right? But you don't scheme up a guy creating himself that many yards. Like, that's still Bucky Irving being a pure badass with the ball and making dudes miss on his own. That's going to translate no matter what. You cannot count on a guy scoring 16 touchdowns a year. Give me the guy who creates for himself, and he's just shown as a rookie, he's going to be able to be an elite guy at creating opportunities and taking advantage on his own accord. So I don't see that slowing down at all. Give me Bucky.
Not so fast, my friend. I have something to say about this. And what I have to say is everything that you said is absolutely right. James Cook had an outlier touchdown season after having an outlier touchdown season the year prior. 207 carries, 1,008 yards, 19 total touchdowns. We can have that number regress a bit because of the fact that, Josh Allen is going to be the primary goal line back. It just so happened to work out in James Cook's favor. Now, what I would like to postulate to you is, what's the snap share going to look like for Bucky Irving in the games just hear me out. In the games where he played over 50% of the snaps, in 3 of those 4 games, he left early or didn't finish the game. I mean, or like he got concussed against concussed the Raiders game, so we won't count that. But let's see, the New York Giants game, he leaves. I mean, he's ailing. He comes back against Carolina, finishes his RB1. Then that whole week he can't practice because he's just too sore and banged up. I mean, you saw him walking down the tunnel with 17 ice packs on. It was one of the funniest deals of all time. Like, this is a great problem to have from a dynasty perspective, because you could have very easily had James Cook in the second round early of your rookie drafts in 2023, and then come in with, 2022, and then come in with Bucky Irving in the third round of your drafts this year. I think that honestly, if I had to bet on it, I would bet on, as long as Rachaad White's there, I would bet that they're not going to increase his snap share to a point where Bucky's handling 20 to 25 touches a game, just because of what we saw in those games where he was extremely productive on the ground. Like, we're talking extreme efficiency against the Giants, comes back the next week. That was 52% of the snaps. He plays 54% of the snaps, which means every time he was in the game, he touches the ball, and he goes 25 for 150, 152 and 1, and then another 3 for 33 in the air. He finishes RB1 that week. The next week, he can't practice at all, and he plays 16% of the snaps before he gets concussed. And then he comes back against the Chargers with 15 for 117. Bucky, there's no question about it. Bucky is as dynamic of a player as they come in the NFL. My question is, coming off of a season that was historic in the fact that he's the first back since Alvin Kamara to accumulate over 1,500 yards from scrimmage with less than 50% snap share on the season, why do we assume that he's going to all of a sudden just take this workhorse role, especially being a sizist a little bit? We've shown us he gets banged up, nicked up, and they still have Rachaad White for one more year to potentially take away some of those third down snaps, some of the snaps in the red zone. I'm not saying that in any way I admit defeat on Rachaad White. I'm just saying we might have to temper our expectations for Bucky, and this might be a head-to-head duel more so due to regression to the mean for James Cook, but also the lack of a step forward in total touches for Bucky Irving.
I think it's interesting you brought up the injury thing, because I've mentioned in the past, one thing I love about him is this dude's a freaking warrior. He started to take on a little bit heavier of a workload, and you're not wrong. Like the ice packs proved the point. But despite the game he got pulled for concussion, down the stretch post week 11 bye, his worst game was 13.3 on half PPR. So he's fighting through it. He's on the field. He misses practice fine, but he's not a guy who's letting it impact the bottom line.
Okay. No, I mean, like I said, I think I have admitted defeat on the whole Bucky Rachaad White thing. Bucky is tremendous. I just think that we might have to temper our expectations for him being a 70% snap share guy. We could be in for a Devon Achane style 2025 where he was incredible from on a per game basis, but the efficiency declined in an alarming way. But we made up for it with incredible pass catching volume. So that's where the point of that was to say, maybe, just maybe, he doesn't take that full step forward into being a full-time bell cow, and that allows me a little bit of room to still be on the James Cook side.
Totally fair, because the market on him is already taking that step for him, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, it's a fair point.
Look, everybody's bricked up in the cement. The cement aisle is full for Bucky Irving. No more room. No more room whatsoever.
All right.
Hey, funny enough, you can go. You're between Cook and Irving in some underdog drafts. You could go towards you get James Cook, you don't come away with Irving. Go a little bit later, slide down, and get some Rashad White, and then you got a blackjack split opportunity for a backfield.
And you guys are just assuming that, the Bills offense stays the exact same. Ray Davis is emerging. He was looking good, and you can't count out them drafting a running back in such a deep class that could easily bring in some talent into that running back room that could really, compete for some touches there. So a lot of variables there. I like the discussion. Now let's move on to a couple of tight ends that I'm really intrigued to hearing a couple of your opinions on it, especially Biggs, because he was at the combine. He saw Elijah Arroyo, and he's
Senior
looking
Bowl.
at the Senior Bowl, and he saw Elijah Arroyo. He saw Fannin. So let's talk about these two guys, and they're going head to head right now in the rankings a little bit. Two tight ends with intriguing potential. They both have set of strengths and improvements that needed. Fannin, 6'4", 245 pounds. He's not huge, but he's got the ability to stretch the field with the deep routes, excellent with run after the catch. He's got some good tracking ability. On the other hand, Arroyo is, very similar in size too, but they offer a solid mix of versatile route running and solid hands. They're both athletic. So I'm going to bring this one on to, let's say, Coach. Let's talk to you here. With Fannin's elite rather than athletic score and ability to separate versus Arroyo's vertical prowess and impressive hands, who's got the highest dynasty ceiling, or is it landing spot,
Mike, thank you for asking me this question, because I love some tight ends. Give me Harold Fannin Jr., 6'4", 230.
Nope.
20 and a half years old. Elijah Arroyo, 6'4", 245, a little bit more size on him, 21.8 years old. Where Fannin has the edge in 2024 stats: receptions, 117 to 35. Receiving yards, 1555 to 590. 10 touchdowns to Arroyo, 7. Arroyo did have an average yards per reception of 16.9, greater than Harold Fannin's 13.3. But when you consider the volume that Harold Fannin Jr. was able to repeatedly produce, it actually, I don't take that so much in Elijah Arroyo's favor over Harold Fannin Jr. Fannin Jr. first in yards per route run versus Arroyo's 9th. PFF receiving grade, Harold Fannin Jr. ranked first to Arroyo's 8th. Give me Harold Fannin Jr. He put it on wax for college production. He tested best on the Zebra score at the Senior Bowl. The Zebra score tracks speed, which Fannin had 0.4 miles per hour advantage on Arroyo. So it's a little closer there. For explosive efforts, though, being tracked, you see Fannin Jr. had 81 to Arroyo's 40. Fannin Jr. had the edge in max acceleration and deceleration. So talking about getting in and out of your cuts, it's something that you really like to see. I debated back and forth tonight for Combine, Fannin Jr. and Matthew Golden, and I knew we would talk about Harold Fannin, so I wanted to split something different. Tyler Warren, and Colson Loveland, they have the better blocking reputation than Harold Fannin Jr., but Arroyo doesn't necessarily have the stats, the good stats in the stat book compared to what Harold Fannin Jr. has done. So give me Harold Fannin Jr. as tight end 3 over Elijah Arroyo. We love what Elijah Arroyo has done. Of course, we will monitor and see landing spots. Landing spots matter. I love the Broncos as an opportunity, the Cincinnati Bengals. So we could be telling ourselves some different narratives and stories post NFL draft. But for now, give me Harold Fannin Jr. What do you got to say to that, Chev?
Well, first and foremost,
was it Biggs or Chev?
Biggs. But I would like to say that Harold Fannin Jr., per our boy Trevor Seal, I would like to point out the fact that Harold Fannin Jr. had the highest PFF run blocking grade out of all of the draft eligible tight ends in the 2025 NFL draft class. Biggs, take it away.
He's a dog. All right. I'm talking about Sumer Sports Combine correlation at the tight end position. The single most important corollary is the 40 time. We know that Harold Fannin Jr. is faster than Elijah Arroyo. the negative correlations, meaning these metrics correlate to worse production at the NFL level at tight end. Height and weight are the most negative corollary. I don't know where you guys were getting your numbers from, but Harold Fannin Jr. is 6'3", 238. Every other tight end in the top 5 is at least 6'4" or 6'5", including Arroyo. All of them are 250, except for Loveland is also 238. So when we want smaller tight ends who are more athletic, we're getting that from Harold Fannin Jr., not from Elijah Arroyo. Elijah Arroyo was a great story at the Senior Bowl because he came out of nowhere and people were like, how does this guy at 6'4", 250 that we haven't really seen a whole lot on come out and show his athleticism? But Harold Fannin Jr. is the class of this tight end rookie class. I'm a big Tyler Warren believer, but he's going to have to show out some super incredible athleticism if he wants to overcome how big he is. It's no longer a time for 100 targets to a tight end that is 6'5" and 250 pounds. Those days are gone if they ever existed in the first place. We want guys who are sub 6'4", sub 240 pounds that can run and are athletic, and that's Harold Fannin Jr. He's the most athletic tight end in the class, and he put it on film. I have a feeling he is going to go out and his combine metrics in the 40-time broad jump, vertical, and 3-cone are going to be the best of the tight end class, and he will run away with my tight end 1. That hasn't happened yet, but I can see it happening very easily.
And this is just kind of like a good scenario to really temper your expectations after seeing somebody just perform well out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like how Arroyo did at the Senior Bowl. People are going to have that kind of in the moment kind of bias, and now we're tempering our expectations and coming back to reality, and that's why I kind of put this question on the show sheet, and it was great Discord here. Awesome, guys. Let's move on to our last face-off, and this is a good one here.
This one will be quick.
This one will be quick. You think so, hey? Because it's Brian Thomas Jr. versus Nico Collins, and you know, Brian Thomas Jr., he had a great rookie season. He finished as a wide receiver 4 overall, wide receiver 9 in points per game. He averaged 18.5 PPR points per game. You know, he was 31% target share, and in his final 7 games, he was just elite. And now he gets a new offensive coordinator. Offensive head coach in Liam Cohen in 2025. So, you know, there's signs are pointing up for Brian Thomas Jr. after an incredible rookie season. And then you got Nico Collins, who finished really good in wide receiver, 6 points per game. Even though he missed 4 games, he led the Texans passing attack, 2.86 yards per route run. And, you know, we know that Stephon Diggs may not be back next year, and Tank Dell is going to be shelved for pretty much all of 2025. So Biggs, with Brian Thomas Jr.'s historic rookie season and the potential for growth in a revamped Jaguars offense against Nico Collins' established role as the clear number 1 target in Houston, who holds the highest dynasty upside moving forward.
I'm trading my Nico Collins for your Brian Thomas Jr. I'm breaking my fingers smashing that offer. I don't know how this even kind of climbs into the debate or as a debate. Most of the platforms have them ranked right next to each other. There's more separation at Dynasty Process, which I agree with. I look at Liam Cohen moving to Jacksonville, and after a lost season for Trevor Lawrence, who is a generational prospect who hasn't had his breakout yet, he's got a wide receiver who broke out with 16.7 points per game as a rookie, where it took Nico Collins until his 3rd year to start establishing 17-point plus per game production. That's intrinsic in Brian Thomas Jr. That took some getting used to for Nico Collins. Nico Collins has 4 years on Brian Thomas Jr. at this point. 3 years. He's three years older than him or whatever. We're talking dynasty. We're talking somebody who was plug and play production as a rookie versus somebody who took a few years to break out. Now you got Liam Cohen coming to Jacksonville. Brian Thomas Jr. may not necessarily be as tall as as Mike. Oh my God, my brain just went. Pew, Mike Evans. But if Liam Cohen wants an every down go-to guy, he's got him in Brian Thomas Jr. That revealed itself last year, regardless of who the quarterback was. Give me Brian Thomas Jr. every single time. And I'm a huge Nico Collins believer.
Yeah, that is crazy to me for you to just say that just like it was a no-brainer for you, Biggs. That was it was a probing question for you to kind of, pique your interest. And
you were trying to challenge me.
I was. And yeah, I mean, Nico Collins is in a situation here. He's tied to CJ Stroud. And,
I mean, that's kind of like being tied to Aiden O'Connell, if we're being honest.
Yes.
Cool, man.
I don't know about that.
Time to buy low on Stroud. That's
yeah. I mean, CJ looked okay in the playoffs here.
You want me to read you the numbers?
No, I'm just saying.
Yes.
I know what his numbers were this season, but he had a decent last couple of games, and after a rookie season, you can't give up on CJ Stroud. And I
haven't given up on CJ Stroud, and I love me some Aiden O'Connell. I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah, you got him closer ranked, fair enough. But I just think that Nico is a bit closer in the range here, but at the same time, I do agree with you with the Brian Thomas take.
We'll take a look at it's not Dynasty, but it's live market. Nico Collins, 8 overall, wide receiver 5 on Underdog. Brian Thomas, 10 overall, wide receiver 7. So they are that close. They're in that tier. And
everywhere but sleeper. Somehow sleeper ADP. Nico is wide receiver 17, and Brian Thomas Jr. is like 42.
That's insane.
Behind Chris Godwin.
Wild. Yeah.
You mentioned the late breakout versus the instant impact. Look, it took Nico. I love Nico too. It took him to get until he got CJ Stroud, right? We just saw Brian Thomas rip the league to smithereens in the second half of the season with Mac frickin' Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Former
to be fair, Mac Jones. Mac Jones was.
Hey, that tweet. Anytime you ever say former first round pick, the guy is turbo mega dog poo.
Okay. I love accuracy with quarterbacks, and Mac Jones is one of the historically top 2 accurate quarterbacks in college football. I want to say he either had the record or broke the record for highest completion percentage in a season. So don't give Mac Jones short shrift. It didn't work out in New England, but the dude can put the ball where it needs to be.
Dude, I watched Mac Jones play half a season of football this season, and what you just said, I'm not buying. I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
Fourth most passing yards in a rookie season, Mac Jones.
Hey, who's better, Mac Jones or Aiden O'Connell, Biggs?
Hey, let's go.
I'm taking Aiden every day.
There you go.
Hey, we gotta get over to we gotta do something else besides talk about Mac Jones and Aiden O'Connell before I start to throw up in my mouth.
That's a great
Dynasty Pulse after dark.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Dynasty Pulse on the Fantasy Football Advice Network, also the Undroppables Network and the Fantasy Football Plus Network. Now, if you want to continue on to the After Dark, we're going to be doing a rookie mock draft, 4-rounder. So stay tuned on the Undroppables and the Fantasy Football Plus Network from all of us on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you win. Peace out.
Let's do this draft.
Yeah.